After my car accident landed me in the hospital, my family group chat blew up, with photos from my sister's spa weekend. Nobody showed. Days later, still in my hospital gown, I opened my phone to 6 missed calls, and a message from my dad. "Call us back now. It's serious." I did. And then... It's strange how you can feel your life slipping out of your hands in complete silence. No screams, no screeching tires, just glass breaking and the airbag smashing into my face. 1 second I was thinking about dinner, rotisserie chicken or drive-thru tacos. The next I was upside down in my car, hanging from the seatbelt like a puppet, staring through a shattered windshield at a stop sign I never saw coming. Someone opened the door and asked if I could hear them. I nodded. Blood ran into my eye from a gash near my temple, and I remember tasting metal in the back of my throat. The rest is a blur. Sirens. Painkillers. The smell of iodine. It all bled into one long gray smear of time. When I woke up properly, I was in a hospital room that smelled like disinfectant and stale air. A nurse told me I had a dislocated shoulder, 2 broken ribs, and a mild concussion. Mild. That was the word they used. I couldn't even sit up on my own, but sure, mild. They said I was lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt forgotten. After they transferred me from the ER to a regular room, I kept waiting for my phone to light up. Someone had to know. Word travels fast in families, right? I figured maybe Dad got a call. Maybe Carly heard from someone. At the very least, I thought my mom would check in. I was wrong. My phone sat on the little hospital tray table for 2 days. Not a buzz. Not a ding. I didn't touch it until late on the second night. When I finally opened it, there were 27 unread messages, not from friends, not from coworkers, but from the family group chat. For one insane moment, I thought they knew. That they cared. The first photo hit like a punch. Carly, in a white robe, holding a champagne glass in one hand and flipping the peace sign with the other. The caption, "Spa time, baby!" That was followed by another, her in a sauna. Then another, fancy sushi. Her nails painted. Her feet in rose petals. Her smiling under a green clay mask. Each one more oblivious than the last. Mom commented on nearly all of them. "So cute. You deserve it. Love you, sweetie." Dad sent a few thumbs up emojis. Not a single message asking where I was. Not one mention of the car. The accident. Me. I just stared at the screen. For a second, I honestly thought I was losing it. I'd told them about the crash, hadn't I? No, I hadn't. I was unconscious when they brought me in. The nurse had asked if I wanted to notify someone, and I said no. I think deep down, I wanted to see if they'd reach out without being prompted. They didn't. 3 full days passed. The only people who visited were nurses and a physical therapist who looked about 12 years old. He kept telling me to take deep breaths so my ribs wouldn't stiffen up. I did what he said, but every breath felt like someone was jamming a crowbar under my ribs. I lay there in that itchy hospital gown, bruised and alone, thinking about all the times I'd helped them. The late-night calls from Carly asking for money. Mom's credit card bills I'd quietly paid. Dad's car repair I covered last Christmas when he said money was tight. Every favor, just this once. I never hesitated. I was the dependable one. The fixer. And now? Nothing. By the 4th day, I was discharged but told not to drive or work for at least a week. I sat in the lobby for nearly an hour waiting for a rideshare because no one had offered to pick me up. I didn't even ask. I went home, still in the hospital gown under my hoodie because I couldn't lift my arm high enough to change my shirt. I slept most of that day. The next morning, I finally turned my phone's ringer back on. 64 missed calls. They all came in over the last 48 hours. Most were from Dad. A few from Carly. One from Mom. There were no voicemails, just a text sitting at the top of my screen. "Dad, call us back now. It's serious." I called immediately. The line didn't even ring once before he picked up. His voice was strained. There was panic underneath it, but he wasn't yelling. Not yet. What he said next didn't make sense at first. Something about misplaced documents. Something about an account being frozen. I didn't interrupt. I let him talk. As I listened, lying there in my own apartment, in the same gown they'd discharged me in, I realized something. For the first time in years, they needed me more than I needed them. and I was done playing the idiot. When I finally called my dad back, I was still sitting in the same chair I'd collapsed into when I got home from the hospital. I hadn't even changed out of the hospital gown. I threw a hoodie over it, but the scratchy fabric against my ribs still made everything ache. The phone didn't even ring. He picked up immediately, like he'd been holding it in his hand, pacing in circles. His voice didn't sound angry. It sounded rattled. That was rare for him. He said they'd been trying to reach me for 2 days. I didn't respond to that. He started explaining, or maybe just rambling. Something about how Carly's rent hadn't gone through, how her card declined at a restaurant, and how she couldn't access her bank account. At first I thought maybe she got hacked, but then he said it. Her backup card was frozen too. The one under my name. He kept going. Mom had tried transferring money for bills, and it bounced. Her credit card, also a secondary on one of mine, stopped working mid-checkout. She thought it was a glitch until the bank flagged suspicious activity. Then her phone bill autopay failed. That's when the panic started. They thought someone had hacked me. Or maybe that something was wrong with the bank. They didn't even consider the possibility that I had done it. Dad asked, almost cautiously, if I knew what was going on. I didn't say anything right away. I just let the silence do what it needed to do. Then I said calmly that I froze everything. I canceled the secondary cards. Shut down the backup account that Carly used. Blocked outgoing transfers. All of it. He sounded genuinely shocked. Like I had thrown a brick through their living room window. He asked why. So I told him. I told him I was in a car accident. 4 days ago. Flipped the car. Broken ribs. Dislocated shoulder. Concussion. I told him I spent 3 nights in the hospital, and that I walked out alone because no one in the family even knew I was missing. And then I told him what really pushed me over the edge, the spa photos. The group chat lighting up like a Christmas tree with champagne and sushi and hot stones and foot baths while I was hooked up to N4. I told him I saw all of it. And not one of them, not Mom, not Carly, not even him, had sent me a message asking where I was, or why I hadn't responded. I didn't need a parade. I just needed someone to care. He tried to recover. He said they didn't know. That if they had known, of course they would have come. I asked him why they didn't wonder why I went silent. Why no one thought to check in. I said point blank, they didn't notice because they didn't care. Not really. That's when he slipped into defense mode. He said Carly was dealing with a lot lately. That Mom had her own stresses. That the spa weekend was supposed to help Carly with her anxiety. He even said maybe I should have reached out. That was it. I told him I was done being the one who always reached out. I was done being the family's safety net. I'd paid Carly's rent 4 times in 2 years. Helped Mom consolidate her debt. Paid off a medical bill for Dad that he never even thanked me for. And now, when I needed something, not money, not help, just basic human decency, they didn't even notice I was gone. He asked me if I was really going to turn my back on family over this. I told him no. I already had. Quietly. While lying in that hospital bed. While scrolling through spa photos. While realizing I could die and they wouldn't know until the credit card declined at brunch. Then I hung up. That night I opened my laptop. Pulled up every account I had a connection to. The ones they'd forgotten I helped set up. The temporary help, accounts that never got switched back to their names. I made a spreadsheet. I went line by line. Phone bills. Streaming subscriptions. Rent. Credit cards. Student loans. Even Carly's gym membership. All of it was still flowing through my accounts. I shut it all down. Froze the credit cards. Cancelled autopays. Changed passwords. Sent requests to remove my name from shared leases and accounts. I wasn't angry. I was methodical. I wanted every door closed, every pipeline shut off. I didn't tell them. I just waited. The first text came the next morning. Carly, all caps, asking why her card didn't work. Then another. Then a call. Then a message from Mom saying her account was frozen and asking if I could call the bank. Like last time. Dad texted asking if I was mad and if we could talk again. I didn't respond to any of it. This wasn't revenge. This was reality catching up to them. And I wasn't going to stop it. By the end of that week, they were all spiraling. Carly called me 7 times in one day. She sent voice messages, long ones, each more dramatic than the last. The first one was confused. The second was annoyed. By the third, she was crying. Real or fake, I couldn't tell anymore. She said she'd been humiliated at her favorite cafe when her card declined in front of everyone. Then she couldn't access her Uber account. Couldn't pay her rent. Her landlord threatened late fees, and the spa charged her a cancellation fee she couldn't afford. I listened to every message without responding. Mom texted next. Said she didn't understand why her bank was acting weird. Then she asked if I could help sort it out. No apology. No mention of the accident. No. How are you? Just straight to the problem like I was her customer service rep. I didn't answer. She sent 3 more messages the next day, the tone slowly shifting from sweet to sharp. Dad was the only one who tried to sound reasonable. He called me again on a Saturday morning and left a voicemail. Said he understood I was upset, but that freezing everything was a big overreaction. That Carly was just a little careless sometimes. And Mom didn't mean to ignore me. He said it wasn't fair for me to cut them off like this without warning. That's when I realized something. They didn't see it as me reclaiming what was mine. They saw it as betrayal. And that told me everything I needed to know. Carly finally showed up at my apartment. She buzzed 3 times. I didn't answer. She texted from the lobby, said she just wanted to talk. I ignored it. 10 minutes later, I saw her car drive off through the blinds. No message after that. She wanted access, not closure. She wanted her life unfrozen, not the truth. The following Monday, I got a call from the bank. Apparently, Carly tried to authorize a transaction using my old joint card info, the one I'd already deactivated. They flagged it and asked if I wanted to report it as attempted fraud. I didn't. I just told them to keep the freeze in place and to monitor any further access attempts. It was quiet for a few days after that. Too quiet. Then came the group message. Mom, can we please be adults and talk this out? No mention of what they did. No acknowledgement of the hospital. No recognition of how much they leaned on me. Just a polite-sounding guilt trip with a ribbon on top. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, Dad called again. I picked up this time. He didn't yell. He was careful, like he was walking on ice. He said they were all going through a rough patch. That Carly had been under pressure, and that Mom was just distracted. He said I'd always been the strong one in the family. That they needed me to come through. Again. That word again. Needed. I let him talk for a full 5 minutes. I think he thought I was softening. Then I asked him one question. When did any of you last do something for me? There was a pause. A long one. Then he said, That's not how families work. Exactly. That was the moment I decided this wasn't a phase. This was permanent. They had taken my silence for consent for too long. They had confused my generosity with obligation. They thought blood meant ownership. Not anymore. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten. I just told him, the support is over. I'll pay my own bills, handle my own life. They can do the same. He tried to protest, but I ended the call before he could finish. It wasn't anger. It was clarity. And I could already see the collapse beginning. 3 days after I cut everything off, Carly's phone service was cut too. I didn't know at first. What tipped me off was the silence on her Instagram. Not even a story. That girl used to post when she sneezed. I checked out of curiosity. Her page was still there, but everything was wiped. No posts, no profile picture. Then an hour later, it was gone completely. Deleted. That was my first real confirmation that her perfect little spa-glazed world was cracking. Mom, meanwhile, was doing what she always did, pretending. She started sending messages in the group chat again like nothing had happened. Cute article about fall soups. Who remembers this song? She sent a selfie with a pumpkin candle in the background, captioned, Getting cozy. No one answered. Not even Dad. Then a letter showed up at my apartment. Not a text. Not an email. An actual letter, in my mother's precise cursive. The envelope was thick. She always had a flair for dramatics. Inside was a 3-page handwritten note about how things had gotten tense, and how she hoped we could return to being a family again. She said she was proud of me. That I'd always been responsible. The glue. That she and Carly were. Going through something complicated. And needed help. A temporary loan. Just until Carly's situation gets sorted. There was no mention of the accident. No apology. Just a pitch. She'd even attached documentation. A screenshot of Carly's bank account, negative balance, overdrawn $418.72. A printed credit card statement with nearly $3,000 in designer purchases, car payments, and a spa membership she apparently forgot to cancel. And at the bottom of the stack, a contract. I swear to God, they drew up a loan agreement. Typed. With interest terms. A payment schedule. Places for me and Carly to sign. A space for a witness signature. The kind of thing people use to protect themselves in court, from strangers. And they send it to me, the guy who paid her rent 6 times in silence. I sat with that letter for a long time. It wasn't just insulting. It was disturbing. Like they had completely detached from reality. I didn't respond. That same night, I heard a knock on my door, not a buzz. An actual knock. It was 9:30 p.m., and no one knocks on my door that late. I looked through the peephole. It was Josh. Carly's ex. I hadn't seen him since they broke up 2 years ago. I opened the door, and he looked awkward, like he already regretted being there. He said Carly gave him my address. That she told him I was going through something, and that she needed his help. Said she painted this picture where I'd lost my mind, cut everyone off out of nowhere, and left her stranded. I asked him straight out, was she staying with him? He shook his head. Said she asked, but he wasn't dumb. Then he said something I didn't expect. She's with your mom now. On the couch. And they're telling people you had a breakdown. I didn't speak. He just kept talking. He said he didn't believe her at first, but when he heard the version of events she was spreading, that I'd snapped after some small family disagreement, and cut them off because I couldn't handle stress, he decided to come to me directly. So I told him everything. The crash. The hospital. The silence. The money trail. The shutdown. He listened. Quiet. No defense. No excuses for her. When he left, I thought that would be the end of it. But the next morning, he texted me a screenshot. It was a Facebook post from my mom. A vague status, but pointed. Please keep our family in your prayers. Some people lash out when they're in pain. We're trying to stay strong through a very difficult time. Dozens of comments. Sending love. Hope everything is okay. You're such a strong mom. That was the moment it really sunk in. They weren't just avoiding the truth. They were actively rewriting it. They were building a new narrative. One where I was unstable. Emotional. The villain. They couldn't reach my wallet anymore, so now they were going for my reputation. I didn't get mad. I got ready. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder I'd created after the accident, and added more. Screenshots of the group chat during my hospital stay. Missed calls. The letter. The loan document. The spa charges. Even the Facebook post. Then I sent them all. Not to Carly. Not to Mom. To Dad. No message. No context. Just facts. A few hours later, he called. I didn't answer. Then he texted. I didn't know. I see it now. I'm sorry. He didn't defend them. And that was the moment I realized the house of cards was already collapsing. I just gave it a final push. After Dad sent that text, he went silent. No follow-up. No phone call. No emotional guilt trip. Nothing. Just those 6 words, I didn't know. I see it now. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I wanted to believe it meant something. That maybe for once, someone in that family saw what I'd actually been holding up all these years. But I wasn't about to take the bait. I'd seen too many fake apologies, too many half-hearted promises that always ended the same way, them needing something again. What I didn't expect was what came next. 2 days later, I got an email from Carly's landlord. It was a notice. Apparently, my email had still been listed as her emergency contact. The message was blunt: unpaid rent, no communication, and a pending eviction notice. She'd skipped the last payment, and the late fees were stacking. They'd tried calling. No answer. They were giving her 5 more days before filing. I stared at the screen and thought back to all the times I'd wired money to that same office. Quietly. Automatically. She didn't even thank me half the time. Once, she messaged me, done T checks, and didn't speak to me for weeks. Now she was out of lifelines. Later that night, Josh texted me again. He'd gone over to Mom's. Something about picking up some of his stuff Carly still had. Said she looked rough. Eyes puffy, pacing, like she hadn't slept. She tried to get him to talk to me again. Said she couldn't believe I'd do this to her. He didn't bite. Then he told me something unexpected. Mom and Carly had gotten into a screaming match. Carly blamed her for not fixing things, and Mom snapped back that she was not made of money. Josh said it got bad. Like neighbors called the cops bad. Carly took Mom's car without permission the next morning. Left her stranded. That was the first real crack in the armor, Carly turning on the only person still defending her. And I realized something. They weren't just panicking because the money was gone. They were panicking because their structure, their whole dynamic, was built around me silently carrying the weight. And when I stepped back, it wasn't just about bills. It was about identity. Without me funding the illusion, they had nothing solid underneath. I thought that would be the final straw. But I was wrong. The final straw came 3 days later. I came home to find an envelope shoved under my door. No stamp, no name, just a folded paper inside. I opened it. It was a single sheet, a screenshot, printed out. A bank transfer confirmation, from one of Carly's old Venmo accounts I forgot she had access to. It showed an attempt to send $900 from one of my backup bank accounts, one I hadn't touched in over a year. She tried to pull it off quietly. What she didn't know was that I'd already locked that account days earlier. The transfer failed. But still, she tried. She searched. She remembered that account and tried to hit it one last time. That was it. No more middle ground. No more hope for repair. I went to the police the next morning. I didn't press full charges, not yet, but I filed a fraud alert and had the attempt documented. Just in case. The bank flagged her name, her IP address, her device. If she ever tried again, it would be automatic. I didn't tell her. I didn't tell anyone. I just let it sit there, waiting. Like a tripwire. And then I blocked them all. Phone. Email. Socials. Group chat. I even locked down accounts they didn't know about, just to be safe. I shut every open door. The fallout kept unfolding on its own. Carly lost her apartment. Mom's utilities were cut off for non-payment. Their social circle started to shrink, too, probably tired of the drama. Dad? He stayed quiet. I think he finally understood the cost of siding with silence. And I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I just lived. Quietly. Peacefully. For the first time in years, no phone buzzing at midnight. No sudden bank notifications. No guilt. Just stillness. They called it selfish. I called it freedom. It's been 2 months since I cut them off. No calls. No texts. No letters. Just silence, the kind I used to crave when I was in the middle of their chaos. Carly never apologized. Not for the fraud attempt. Not for the lies. Not for ignoring the hospital. The last I heard, she was crashing with a college friend in some tiny apartment downtown. She lost the car. She lost the apartment. Most of the friends she used to post about are gone. Turns out, being the fun one only gets you so far when you can't cover the bill anymore. Mom's still pretending. I know because my cousin sent me screenshots of a group post where she mentioned me again, some vague line about broken families and learning to forgive. Forgive what? Being the one person who finally said no? What she never got was that it wasn't about the money. It was about never being seen. I was their solution, their safety net, their quiet sponsor, but never a person. Never someone they thought could break. And I did break. Quietly. In a hospital bed. With no visitors and 27 unread spa photos. As for Dad, he stayed silent. Completely. That surprised me the most. I figured he'd try to rebuild something, even just to make himself feel better. But I think he finally understood what it meant when I didn't respond to his last message. It wasn't a threat. It was a closing statement. I moved last week. New apartment. New bank. New number. Left no forwarding address. I didn't even tell the cousin who tried to stay neutral. Not because I'm scared of them, but because this time, I'm not giving anyone access to my peace. The old Andrew would have kept the door cracked open. Just in case. The new one doesn't. I still keep the screenshots. The letter. The voicemail where Carly sobbed about, "How could you do this to me?" The Venmo transfer attempt. Not because I want revenge, but because I want to remember. Because here's what no one tells you: sometimes, cutting off your family doesn't feel like a heroic stand. It feels like grief. Like mourning something that never existed the way you hoped it did. But every day, that grief gets a little quieter. Every day, my phone stays silent, and that silence feels a little more like safety. They spent years thinking I'd always be there. That they could burn the bridge and I'd still build another one. But they finally learned what happens when the bridge builder walks away, and takes every plank with him. And I learned something too. That family isn't who shares your name. It's who shows up when your world breaks, not when theirs does. And that no one, not even blood, has a permanent right to your kindness if they treat it like a currency to be spent. This wasn't revenge. It was survival. And for the first time in my life, I'm finally living.